Hello, hello. You're listening to the Goggler podcast. Ian, Bahir, and Uma with you. This week, we've got a bunch of new stuff to talk about. Myth and Mogul, John DeLorean, which is a three-part documentary on the man behind the car in Back to the Future. You know, that's what you know him from. And also the worst SEO optimized title of all time, Vivo.
Especially in Asia. I don't know how much it is in Europe, but over here it's the worst.
Vivo, Netflix's brand new animated feature, because that mobile phone technology company seems to have cornered the market on that name. So if you Google Vivo, that's all you get.
There's also, if you Google Vivo Music, there's Vivo something La Vivo, which is there's some other there's numerous albums called Vivo.
Oh yes, I'm sure there are. So it's a brand new Netflix animated musical featuring the voice talents and also the creative genius of Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote a whole bunch of songs for it. But how have you guys been? This is week 700 in lockdown. What's going on?
Yeah, not much else to say, really. I mean, same as last week and the week before that, really.
I mean, this hair is getting out of control.
Hair's getting out of control, though.
I have to
becoming a real problem now.
I have to use an unreasonable amount of product just to try and get anything under control.
And you have to shower before bed. If not, in the morning you just look like syndrome.
Oh no, I don't get syndrome. I'm just like wearing one of those Russian hats just without the pin in the middle. You know, those woolly Russian hats.
But hey, actually, before we get into this week's show, I do have a quick recommendation to make. It's just something that I've been watching on the side, but we've never actually got around to speaking about it. But The Good Fight is still as good as it ever was.
I've never seen any.
So this show is
the latest season finished?
No, it's ongoing. The latest season is ongoing, and it's just incredible. The way they, like, so many shows try to tie in their storylines to what's happening out in the real world, and it often feels like, lifted from the headlines, roll your eyes kind of thing. But the way The Good Fight does it and how it kind of trips into surrealism, like, it's just it's incredible. If you're not watching The Good Fight, you really need to watch that show.
But it's like, 5 seasons? I don't have time for that.
There's some of them
short seasons, though. Yeah, actually, all of them are like between, I think they don't hit 22 episodes. They're like 12, 16-ish. And the more recent seasons are shorter just because of COVID. But it's so good. It's so good. Anyway. Yeah, but you watch it, right, Ian?
Yeah. I just I've been thinking about what we need to catch up on next season for between shows. We're watching Succession, so maybe when that's over, we'll get back to it.
Yeah, that's the other one I haven't caught on.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I think myself and Davina are enjoying it for different reasons. She's enjoying the family drama, but it's kind of a pitch, like, it's Vanta black comedy.
Right.
Oh.
Just because it, like, some of the stuff that you watch it, right, Uma? No.
I've only seen the first season, so I'm way behind.
Oh, I'm just on the first season as well, but there's just an element of absurdism to how dysfunctional this family is, and how, oh my God, the younger brother Roman, just like he's all talking, all balls to the wall, and all big Hollywood or all big Wall Street, and the moment he has to do anything, he's a 12-year-old child crying by his father's side. And what's his name? Kieran Culkin, right?
Yes.
And he's just so good. Everyone's so good.
It reminded me like a little bit of White People Empire. I don't know if you guys watched Empire.
Oh, Empire. Sorry, yeah. I was like White People Empire. I haven't heard of that spin-off. Is that the Deep Space Nine of the Empire universe?
Yeah, but similar. Like it had Empire Billions vibes to it, and I really enjoyed it. And of course, it's got same thing, right? Just dozens and dozens of Emmy nominations every year. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. But yeah, let's get into it. So today,
hang on, sorry, that's the last time. We're not saying let's get into it. Without further ado, we may be podcasting this live on YouTube, but we're not using any of those YouTuber cliches. I won't stand for it. Without further ado, let's get into it. I hate it's like without further ado, let's get into it. You've just a dude for 5 minutes. Shut up.
I know. I hate it when they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So let's do this.
Let's
move
do
on.
this.
Yeah.
Engage. Make it so. We're going to be talking about two shows on Netflix, right? So the first one is a documentary series called Myth Mogul, John DeLorean, and I guess a lot of us know about John DeLorean just because of the car that is featured in Back to the Future. However,
Sorry,
his
that's
story...
the only reason why we know about the car.
Yes.
That's a good
For
point.
me, at
Yeah.
least. Yeah.
I mean, the car was a complete failure, except for the fact that it was featured in that film. And this is the story of the man behind the car, and his was an incredibly storied life. And it's one of these I knew very little about John DeLorean going in. All I knew was, the car was a complete failure, and it is a little bit like, Tucker, the
A Man in His Dream.
subject of that other movie, Man in His Dream, and I knew that the Back to the Future films kind of revived interest and made the car sexy and cool again. What I didn't know was, I guess, plot twist, all of the insanity behind the lead up to the creation of this car and how it became this global, international conspiracy, even involving Great Britain, Ireland, drugs, all kinds of stuff. And I guess we were too young to follow.
Yeah.
Like, it was considered one of the biggest, his story and how it ended up involving drug smuggling, etc., was considered one of the biggest drug cases in American history at the time, or one of the most public drug trials, because it featured this rich ultra entrepreneur. But we were too young to actually, follow it, because it happened in the early 80s.
Yeah, and there was no internet, and it was only on the news, and like it would be very sincere. You wouldn't be able to get away from it on American TV because you can see all the footage they have of morning shows and news shows.
Yeah.
It was like one of
the
the
equivalent
trials
of OJ, right?
Yeah, one of the trials of the century, which we used to get once a century, but now as as time moves on, we get every 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. But how much do you guys know about all of this stuff? Like, Ian, a whole bunch of it involves Ireland in a big fucking way.
Yeah.
So you must have been aware of what was going on, right?
Well, I knew at some point, like 85, I would have been about 7. So, I wouldn't really have had that much of an idea about the DeLorean and stuff like that. But over the years, I heard about it being made in Belfast. I saw a red one on the street once in Dublin, and the engine sounded very unhealthy. But it was interesting to see, like, the Irish... the Irish Development Authority took a look at his plans and said, this doesn't sound right. And that's wild. Politicians said no. So like, it doesn't sound like the Ireland I know, but I guess that's the way it is now.
But it was great because, and then the Brits were just like, fuck it, let's not ask too many questions.
Yeah.
This was
but
great.
it was a Labour government who then left, and Maggie Thatcher's like, no more for you. But it was interesting seeing the Irish politician Des O'Malley being interviewed, because he literally passed only on July 21st. He only passed a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there's been a load of articles about him. One thing, I don't know if it's in them, if it kind of speaks to why things went wrong. The show jumps around a lot, which I found a little bit distracting. Like, it would have a big year on screen and then roll it back so you get like DeLorean's younger years, or, back when he had no chin.
Yeah. It also felt a little, I wouldn't say unnecessary, but it's not like it jumped something. It didn't feel like they jumped to something that was important.
Yeah.
And then it's never really sort of developed that bit. So it was really jumpy, I think. And which is, I don't know. It felt, I was having trouble. I wouldn't say I was having trouble keeping up, but it was just very jumpy.
It was a little jarring, and I was wondering, some of it introduces certain people as financial officers or chief engineers, but it's in the second episode, an awful lot of them leave. So that kind of makes sense, because when you first see them, and I think it's Walter Stryker who's the chief financial officer. He's interviewed recently, I think, relatively recently. He keeps referring it to North Ireland, and I'm thinking he probably didn't get on very well with the locals if he's still calling it to this day. Oh, we went to North Ireland. It's like, Northern Ireland's the name of the country, dude. It's Northern Ireland.
It's
You know,
not
he went
just
to the
North,
East,
yeah.
different.
of the island. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like, we went to upstate New York. It's not upstate Ireland we went to. Another thing I found weird just from an Irish background was it had committed to this kind of John DeLorean super sexy spy man kind of style to the beginning, which is, it's kind of cool. It fits the style, it fits the time. I find that really, really jarring when it got to talking about the Troubles, because it kind of made it sensationalized, which is the fighting between the IRA and the British soldiers in Northern Ireland. And when it came off like, thousands are dying, it really didn't fit the tone of everything else that was going on.
That David Holmes style Ocean's 11 music didn't work in that context, right?
No.
It was weird because it felt like they were still trying to make John DeLorean cool, right? International man of mystery, but here's a bigger thing that you're supposed to be worried about.
But I think that's what I liked about the structure of the documentary, in that it worked with what we knew to begin with, in the sense that I guess we know the car, we know John DeLorean, so we think, cool guy, built this cool car, might have been a failure, but it was in that movie, right? And then
it's only a few minutes later after you've had that thought, when you're cleaning the kitchen, you go like, why am I thinking about cocaine? Wasn't there something to do with cocaine?
Right. And I like how they deconstruct that myth, and they kind of played it in reverse, because if you knew nothing about the man, then the shocks come hard and fast. And I think it did a good job of not glorifying this individual, because by the time you get to the end of it, when you get to this, he's a malignant narcissist and this is how he ruined my family kind of thing, you're like, there we go. Yeah.
Even the reveal of the Yellow Pages thing, it's like, oh no, he was always a bit of a bastard. It's like he was selling Yellow Pages ads in the Yellow Pages. I also love the fact that they had to explain what the Yellow Pages are.
He just was. Come on, man. Come on.
I think you can still get them for old people. I'm not sure. Are they still around?
I think you can.
No, are they?
For it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But
you have to apply for them.
But no one's buying ads in those things anymore.
That I don't know. Yeah.
But maybe just opticians for old people and things like that, or hip replacement surgeries. They're on the Yellow Pages. I did find though that like it did have a lot of good information. Like there's a lot of great footage. It did have a weird thing about either they couldn't find the names, or footage was hard to come by. But they did have a tendency to not caption an awful lot of the Northern Irish people, which I found just weird. It's like.
Right.
It doesn't help when you're interviewing Jeremy Paxman and he describes Northern Ireland as a grotty part of the country. Why are you setting up this place in a grotty part of the country? This permatanned individual. It's like, God, I want to punch you in the face so hard. And it's weird because the younger version of Paxman you see in the footage looks like the love child of Andy Samberg and Adam Driver. Right? He looks like a nice guy, and now he's a total prick. But they did seem to emphasize other voices over Northern Irish voices. I'm sure it was the 80s. Everyone who was in that factory was working age at that age. I'm not sure if they've moved away, or could be hard to track people down. It would have been interesting to get some people. They only got one person. They got one lady, right, who was a.
But even then, it wasn't. I don't know. Was she actually at the factory, or because she was talking about what it was like after the factory left the town, right? So
it said DMC employee, I thought.
Was she an employee? Oh, okay, I didn't notice that. Yeah.
I think for me there was a lot of interesting information. Just going back to what you were saying, Ian, I know a little bit about the Irish conflict.
It wasn't. Just to point out firstly, it wasn't all just that one bomb clip they kept showing over and over again. I know it's hard to get footage of a bomb, and it's a slight just little use some other footage. I don't know.
But it was constant, right? And it wasn't as it wasn't. Like when I went to Belfast in 2004, 2005, I remember the people in Belfast telling me, oh, look, what you're experiencing now is completely different. Just 5-6 years ago, you couldn't walk into this shop. There would be people checking you as you walked into the shop, right? There would be military personnel. And I had no idea that it was such a big deal for Protestants and Catholics to work in the same place together, that you needed separate entrances. I think all of that was very new information to me, because obviously in schools in Malaysia, the most we learn about is that there is a conflict. We don't go into detail at all. So for me, that was fascinating information. And then to throw in this American entrepreneur who kind of, piggybacked on that and used that as his marketing strategy on how to get a factory built there was just incredible.
I mean, it even said that he wanted to open it in Puerto Rico, but that didn't work out. It could be a very different story we might have seen if things had gone differently.
I don't know. I mean,
He would have had more access to drugs. That's the
I mean, with John DeLorean, I think for what this documentary, this 3 episodes sort of proved is that it kind of pretty much ended up where it's supposed to be, regardless of where he opened that factory. I think because I mean, like I knew nothing about this. I knew he designed the car. I knew the car failed as a business prospect. I didn't know anything about the cocaine thing. I didn't know anything about his history, his personal life with the other sort of car manufacturers. He was the rising star of American cars, right? And
yeah.
General Motors.
For this to, and for it to turn out the way it did, I think it was. I mean, on one hand, it's a shame, but on the other hand, you like you said, Ian, he always had it in him, right? To fuck this up, from day one. And it's not just, and I think this sort of documentary tells me that it wasn't just a bad business environment. It wasn't just unfortunate there were no sales. It wasn't just, the cars were too expensive and nobody bought them. No,
yeah.
He siphoned the money. He ran a bad business. It was a little unfortunate to have Chapman from Lotus sort of be pulled into this, because I always thought he was pretty, Lotus was, Lotus, right? Lotus is a great sort of UK establishment, racing and all that. And then you just go like, fuck, that's not great.
Yeah, these guys.
But also, wasn't he part of the setup of the foreign account?
No, that's what he's saying. Like, he's just
idea,
it's tarnished. Lotus is now tarnished forever in Bahir's mind, because there's a judge in the UK said, and it was a much later newspaper. It was from 1993. I was looking at it because I had the lotto on the bottom, the Irish lottery, which is like I'm getting nostalgic for the 90s now for the typeface used on the national lottery. But he says, like, if DeLorean comes back to the UK or Chapman had been alive, they would have been jailed for 10 years. So they just siphoned of the 54 million they were given from the UK government. They just took 18 and put it in their own. It was 100 million at that point. That was the 100 million tranche. They got more later. 18 of it just went to them. And even with that wasn't enough for the lifestyle he was leading. Really puts the nail in the legend of John DeLorean. But that, I think, the biggest nail is just the opening to the 3rd episode, where they just show it just shows the tape of when he's arrested, and it goes on to show that it was kind of entrapment, but his intent wasn't to sell drugs. His intent was to make money as quickly possible to save his company, so he could continue funneling money out of it. So the prosecutors did kind of screw up there a little bit, but just watching that footage it's terrible. It looks like night vision footage from an Apache helicopter now, but just they're celebrating a deal that's going to turn, 1.8 million of his shares into 45 million, I think it was, in cocaine, like in returns from cocaine. And then just the FBI calmly walk in and read him his rights. And the co-conspirators, there's a guy they interview who talks about, I was working for the biggest cocaine trafficker of the time, and I was just driving this car across, and I didn't know I was going to end up in the trial of the century, the trial of John DeLorean. It's like, dude, was it not your trial too? You were the one driving a car full of cocaine.
But also, it's incredible how calm John DeLorean was in that video as well. He wasn't shaken at all. He just stood up and he was like, "Oh, okay then." It's very difficult for me to sit on the edge of the chair.
Yeah, there's a line early on about after that Yellow Pages fiasco, he learned that if you're, with some charm and a quick wit, you could get out of most situations.
Exactly. Yeah. And that really comes across because it's interesting how, John DeLorean's been dead for a while. They interview a lot of people who he screwed over, including his ex-wife. Mm-hmm. And yet, all of these people have incredibly nice things to say about him. They're angry to a certain extent, but that charm and wit still seems to have won them over. Like, charisma, that hasn't gone away. They're still quite complimentary.
Charisma is a hell of a drug.
Yeah. It almost feels like they're just like, oh, what could have been, He threw it all away. Oh, well, nice guy though, I was just like, I don't know, man. I think, And with John DeLorean as well, the thing that, because I like watching these documentaries about like the American dream and the kind of, I guess,
the ravages that it puts on people.
The kind of conniving minds that exploit the American dream, right? But what's interesting about John DeLorean is, unlike, say, someone like Steve Jobs, who was an asshole in his youth, and then when you read his biographers later in life, they say he was a changed man when he came back and in his 40s and 50s, because age, right? John DeLorean didn't seem to change. He was very single-minded in his focus. Like from the time he was falsifying ads in the Yellow Pages to making, secret cocaine deals, it seems like he was the same guy. Like when he was conning people out of their patents, like there was very little that changed about the man.
Yeah, for me, it was, I think it was in episode 3 when they were talking about the end of his life, and he was still trying to get the next one going, right? He was still trying to get the idea of the next car coming up. People,
but also the selling watches on the internet. Yeah. They real watches. Like that's the first thought that went through my mind. That was the first question.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And
but it's just this idea that he never changed. He was, whether it's chasing the American dream, whether it's
a grift, whether he just was grift, just changed grift and he was still a grifter. Yeah. The question still, the documentary still, it leaves it open a little bit, but it kind of it seems to put a few more nails in the coffin of he's an actual grifter. I would have liked a little bit more on what happened afterwards, because that's something that we don't hear much about. I mean, yes, there might not have been anything, but like just cutting to, he died in a walk-up apartment selling watches online, doesn't tell you an awful lot about, like, he lost his money or he divorced his wife and all this kind of stuff. Same with the car.
They kind of jumped that,
It's a little bit same with the car, where they talk about, I think it's Gavin Esler, the reporter, talks about not being able to get out of the car, and they kind of use that as a pin to kind of put all the problems of the car on. But I have heard over the years there's problems with those cars, and none of that was addressed. Like, I don't know whether it was fast. It was kind of it was billed as a weird mix between sports car. It's a family car. There's no back seats. You can't, people couldn't get trapped in the camera crews are getting trapped in the cars. But it doesn't go into any reviews of the cars itself. And when they talk about, like, in the 2.5 years, there was 9,000 made and they supposedly had ordered for 30,000. I would have liked to hear more about, the engine was crap, the transmission was rubbish, or, there was reasons why people weren't buying these, and it wasn't just because they were getting stuck in them.
Yeah. Same. I think that for me was one of the big shortcomings, in that I didn't get enough of what was wrong. I think there were leaks. The stainless steel thing didn't work very well. Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff, right?
And I mean, they've already got Paxman, so like they might as well have just had Clarkson walk around the corner and just start talking about it. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm glad, however, that they kept the Back to the Future stuff to like 30 seconds in the first part, because I'm glad they didn't, because that creates something different, right? Because then you have all of these people who now hero worship this car, who are looking for secondhand models, who are remodeling it to look like the Back to the Future DeLorean. And I think that would have skewed the story in a different direction, because that legacy is something, that pop culture legacy is something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the son said at the end, right? Like, just remember the car that John DeLorean gave us, and I think, and you're right, I think to go down that route would have been different from the title of the show. The title of the show is Myth and of John DeLorean. So I think if it went down that route, you would be, I can see myself sympathizing with him a little bit.
A little more, yeah.
I presume if you search on YouTube, I can vaguely remember, like, maybe not full-on documentaries, but news snippets, or, on news, not news programs, but like Panorama or those kind of slightly longer magazine news shows. Yeah, there had been a car from the car from the car made in Belfast is back in Hollywood. I've seen plenty of those, so keeping it to that was pretty good. Also, the involvement of Larry Flint. This is another shock to me completely. Just like scanning through my notes, I'm like, wait, what? That and the setup, the drug setup on the author who was writing about him and being on the television, and who his ex-wife kind of confirmed that he set the guy up, is that's wild. You should lead with that stuff.
No, but and also it's sort of, and I wish they had sort of gone into that a little bit more, maybe, because obviously we don't know if it was John DeLorean who set him up, right? There's no real proof of that one way or the other. There's allusions to it, there's assumptions to it, but I bet he'd done more stuff. Yeah. I bet he had other shit in his in his locker that.
The other thing is, unless it's just it's Darth Vader did it, like it really was Darth Vader doing it, because everyone kept saying, "Oh, this Darth Vader like voice kept tipping off the police and telling me there was evidence in this locker that was actually
James
cocaine."
Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones was fucking around a lot at the time.
But I think the series really sort of opened my eyes to the person, right? I think it's weird because on one hand you it's nowhere near being a hero worship piece of television, right? But at the same time, I'm curious about how he got to the place he got. Other than it can't just all be charm. You know what I mean? Like he couldn't have just charmed his way to convincing the British government to give him.
But there was engineering skills behind that. They talked about that. Although that engineering poem was just. Did not like that at all. That's terrible. And the guy, the author using that as like some kind of basis to build upon this, like, oh, he's a true Renaissance man. It's like, you schmuck.
No, but I think he was genuinely smart, and I think.
And I think this.
To go up the ranks in GM, you would have to be right.
Exactly.
But I think that combined with his cunning and guile and charm
and height, he was very tall, right?
Weapon.
He looks tall and
height.
He's really tall.
Yeah.
I think that made for a potent weapon in trying to convince foreign governments. And also, let's not forget, you were the head of GM. I think that in itself, exactly. You say you're building a car, and foreign governments are going to be like, "Hell yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about."
But
I think at the time as well,
they talk about him going to Hollywood and be like, he was using his fame to hobnob with Hollywood stars. So he wasn't going to places and telling them, "I'm going to make a car." He's telling them, "I'm going to build a dream."
And the thing is, this is a similar story that we see. There was another Netflix documentary called Bad Boy Billionaires, which kind of covered. India's billionaires and how all of them made their money mostly illicitly, or even if it was legal at some point, they all kind of went down some routes of criminality. And it's a very similar story. This guile, this charm, this wit. There was a jeweler who basically decided, they've got all of these big brands in the US. Why can't there be a jewelry brand out of India which is as big? And so he used his name, and it was a big fraud, right? But if you watch the trajectory of their stories, it's almost following a very similar path.
I was going to say, even I thought you were going to bring up the Theranos story, because it's grift is going to grift. I mean, it's almost as if capitalism was a mistake.
No, but also I think it's made doubly worse when someone like what's her name, Elizabeth from Theranos, and she's genuinely smart as well.
Yeah,
like that's the double whammy, right? Yeah.
That's the grift. That's the you said something earlier about them using capitalism with that. Unfortunately, I think this is the system working as intended.
Yeah.
I mean, America is the country where they used to sell, like, what was it, DDT and asbestos in their houses? Like they just put poisons in their house. Someone thought that was a good idea under capitalism.
I mean, lead paint.
Yeah,
it works. Yeah,
sure. Why not? Why would you put lead in paint in the first place?
Well, I mean,
crazy days.
We're one to top Malaysia. We're still using. You can still find mercury in makeup stuff sometimes. So let's stop.
I gotta research my foundation brand then.
Yeah.
It takes work
as long as you didn't buy it off. As long as you didn't buy it off Instagram, you're fine.
No, I'm fine. I think it takes work to look this pasty on camera.
It's a weird show. I mean, in the sense that if you know nothing about John DeLorean other than the name John DeLorean and the car, the DeLorean, this just will blow your mind.
No, but I mean, I guess these pockets of information that we didn't have aside, I felt that it was still quite comprehensive when focused on the man. And I think that seemed to be the primary focus of the documentary as well, right? To try and kind of focus in on this man and his character flaws and see how that has impacted the rest of the world in his case. What was it? 100 million pounds, right? They ended up
plus.
paying, what's it, 80 million pounds.
The
plus,
first
yeah.
100 million pounds was to build get the factory up and running in 2 years on a greenfield site. Then it was another 54, I think, later, and then he tried to
Insane.
He got 14 million to cover 450,000 pounds worth of damage from a petrol bomb or something.
From petrol bomb
that accidentally landed. That accidentally landed in, like, I don't know, in the refuse areas. Like, oh, that's where we store the trash. But yeah, we need more money for this.
Yeah.
Is this? It's Myth and Mogul, John DeLorean. Is this going to be a series? Is this the?
No,
is this
that's
the scandals?
what I was wondering too.
Is this the scandals that made us?
Yeah, like American crime story. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I hope it was, though, because there'll be some crazy shit going on. I mean, Netflix does a lot of these. Like, I was watching the new one that came out on Wednesday called Cooking Cowboys, Miami.
Right.
That one's also pretty wild. I don't know. I like these. I like that they're short. I like the sort of, 3 episodes for John DeLorean. I think Cooking Cowboys might be a bit longer. The other good one was Heist.
Heist was really enjoyable.
Yeah. Not the Gene Hackman movie.
No.
Not the Gene Hackman.
Also very enjoyable.
Also very enjoyable. Yeah, but I think there's a. It's weird. I wonder if there's nobody else who's done stuff like that. Is it just an American thing?
No, everyone's doing it all the time.
No, I know, but like, why aren't there these stories, right? Like,
because they own the media companies. That's why.
Well, not only that, but also you don't get these stories out of, I guess, Malaysia, Thailand, whatever, even though it's happening here as well.
Yeah,
it's because I think there's a weird thing, right? Americans love to talk, even about their bad stuff. And I find that
I always put it down to that sort of outlaw nature of America, right? So they no longer have the Wild West, but they still sort of hold up, Billy the Kid and all those guys who are.
Oh no, that's my point. Because I think when the way they craft these stories, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, there is this tendency to make these heroes. So even if you read about all the stuff Escobar has done, he is a fucking asshole and a murderer and a bad man. And yet, when you watch Narcos, after a while, you are like, I need a T-shirt with Escobar's face on it, know? Because that's what happens.
I don't know.
Right?
I just think that's delusional audiences, because Narcos really sort of played him out as a villain, though. I mean, sure, they showed the stuff that he did, like
But his cunning and guile, and exactly, right?
But basically, it's read more books, because when it gets to the screen, it's going to have to fit in with, like, we want to get someone cool for the lead, so we have to make the lead cool, right? And we have to fit a 3-act structure.
That's true.
Jordan Belfort may be a massive dick, but that scene where he's off his tits trying to get into the Lamborghini is going to be hilarious.
Exactly.
But it is an awful lot of the places here is that, like, you just don't talk about it because you can't, because your business will disappear.
Don't talk about it.
Your business will disappear, or you'll have to leave the country or whatever, depending on which way the wind is blowing that week.
Yeah. And also, right till the end, John DeLorean still believed he was right. He was all in. He was convinced he was doing the right thing. He was the hero of his own story.
Or at least he was. At least he was in all the footage you see. Which all the footage you see, especially at that time, like, they keep showing that scene of him, which could be in between takes on an advertising shoot or something where he's thirsty, but they keep using it to be he's crafty, because he's like. He's like a little rat. Like, it's a weird. It's an off-camera moment that, like, I'm sure we're gonna have plenty of on here on YouTube when we're on YouTube. But that felt a bit cheapened. But there's probably, he probably could go home and like, I can't believe I got away with it again. I just could. Like, that's all he does all day. Like, in the morning frying breakfast. I can't believe I got away with all that shit. Having lunch. I can't believe I got away with all that shit.
Yeah, Myth and Mogul, John DeLorean. Check it out. It is worth watching whether you know everything or nothing about the man. Let us know what you think when you do. You know how to get in touch with us, all of our social medias, Goggler MY, also podcast at goggler.my, and also the Goggler hotline, 012-524-5208 is the number to WhatsApp. Up next, we're going to be talking about a brand new animated musical on Netflix. This one's called Vivo. If you're Googling it, search Vivo Netflix. Otherwise, you'll never find it.
Yeah, not Vivo Sony Animation. That's fine, fuck all. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Don't try looking for the soundtrack, because I can't seem to find it yet.
Oh, maybe because it's not out yet.
I don't know. It's weird because it's out in other places, so I don't know what's going on.
Huh. All right. So this one's directed by Kirk D'Amico, who Oscar-nominated director. You would probably know him best from The Croods, I think, was the movie that he's best known for. The music is composed, written by Lin-Manuel Miranda and his longtime collaborator, Alex Lackamore. It's got voice talents of Zoe Saldana, Gloria Estefan, Juan de Marcos Gonzalez, who's from Buena Vista Social Club. And it tells the story of cute little animal, which I never heard of before, the kinkajou, who leaves Havana, gets to Miami on this quest for true love for his best friend, Andres, played by Juan de Marcos, where he encounters this precocious little girl who kind of helps him on his adventure. He's got to deliver a letter to Gloria Estefan's character, the great Marta Sandoval, who's an amazing singer, right?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie. There's one song that has been stuck in my head.
The fucking beat one, the beat my own drum one,
yes!
right?
Of my own drum.
I've been humming it since, and I die inside a little because when I was watching it, again, we're watching this on screeners on small TVs and home sound systems, and it was like, thank God I didn't watch this in the cinema because
it's jarring when it kicks in.
It's really jarring. And I mean, you're supposed to feel for the kinkajou. You're supposed to feel for Vivo because he's used to, doing all Buena Vista Social Club music. And instead he's got he's got Missy Elliott beating his eardrums to death. And Missy Elliott's there's a credit version.
There's a credits version that's her, yeah.
That has Missy Elliott on it, which is kind of cool. Which it makes sense where that comes from. But it was an assault at first.
And then it just gets stuck in your brain.
Yeah, it is a real earworm.
And I enjoyed this movie. I think there was a lot about this film that felt very Miyazaki to me, especially in the characterization of the little girl. And I think her kind of weirdness is not the right phrase, but
quirkiness.
I don't know. Quirkiness,
she's
right?
quirky.
Yeah.
She's unique.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And that really felt like a Miyazaki character. Not so much the kinkajou. The kinkajou felt very Disney.
Felt very Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah.
But Gabby I thought the voice acting was great. The characterization was great. And for me, she was the anchor of the show more so than Lin-Manuel Miranda and Vivo because she was just a very precocious and not annoying kid, right?
Yeah.
Because there were there's this moment when they're on the bridge and they're being chased by her friends on the bicycle, and she jumps off into the river, and it's hilarious.
The ridge racing moment. I was chuckling at that.
Tried to jump the bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
For me, me and the wife loved the bit where she first meets the kinkajou back in Miami. Opens the suitcase, they're both screaming and sort of just like open back and forth.
Oh yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
that was good.
Because when this movie started, I thought, am I going to like this at all? Because it's very Lin-Manuel Miranda brand at first, where they're singing, dancing. The character design of the kinkajou, I wasn't really mad on. The character design seems to fit in with everything that everyone's doing for humans these days. Like it wouldn't look too. I think I realized halfway through it was Hotel Transylvania. They've got big eyes, big heads, but tiny, tiny mouths, which just look odd. There's some scenes I found really disturbing because of that.
Right.
But then it grew on me.
Same.
It really grew on me.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be run of the mill to begin with. For me, the moment that kind of kicked into gear is when Andres is telling him about Marta, and they switch into 2D, and the music. And for me, it's just that when that music kicks in, I was all in. The whole Buena Vista Social Club vibe, kicking into 2D, and the design of Havana and the world that they created was very immersive. And then to contrast that later in the movie with the kind of design of Miami and the kind of music bars beating and the lights and the neon, I was like, oh, that's really quite inventive and nice. Yeah.
I think it did that mixed media style way better than the Mitchells versus the Machines, because the Mitchells versus the Machines, it feels like Instagram stickers, so it was intentional. It was like we're sticking things on top. But in this, items start glowing, it starts going to 2D, and then Vivo himself is like, what is happening? He's losing his mind as the world goes to 2-dimensionals, because it's like when we talked about Final Girls, they're like, what's happening? Am I having a stroke? No, it's a flashback.
Right.
And I thought that was really interesting. That's, I think, the next frontier for animation. We've done the furs, great. Waters, we can talk about the driveway in Toy Story 4 again if you want, because we never run out of nice things to say about that. But water effects, the depth of field effects, all these Toy Story 4 is basically Bokeh the movie, These things are all going along, but this was just that mix of styles and effortlessly going between them. And even the beat of my own drum section, where all the rules are out the window when it comes to animation. Like, she's huge, Vivo small. There's no they're breaking 180 rules. She's jumping from the left side of the screen to the right side. Nothing makes sense because it's this kind of it's like, what's it like being inside a graphic equalizer, and it worked really well.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should just say hi to Ikwan Rizwan, because we have to say hello to people on the YouTube live stream now.
Thank you for watching the live stream. I also loved when they were in the jungle, and I thought there was a real creation of suspense, especially with Luthador the snake, which was terrifying. Michael Rooker.
I got more. That's where it's cemented in my mind that it's Hotel Transylvania, because that design fits in with it, right? And you can see that then come true in the other characters. That seems to be Sony Animation's house style now. But just this giant arrow-headed snake, it looked great.
Yeah, it really did. I was going to ask Byer, what did you think of the music? Because this is your kind of music. You love this stuff.
This is your job.
Samba, exactly.
Yeah, the Latin Cuban stuff. I mean, it's great.
Welcome to our new section, Bahir. Is this your jam?
Is this your jam? I enjoyed. I think I wish there was more. I was hoping for more. I think I don't want to spoil it, but what happens in the end of the first act? I wish we were more in Cuba. I wish we were in Cuba longer. I think Gabby's great. I think Gabby's cute, but I think the shift to making it about Gabby, and I think it's something like it's what you were talking about earlier, Ian. The Gabby becomes the crux of the show, as opposed to the Andres, Marta Sandoval, and Vivo thing, which I was hoping for more of.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoyed it.
For me, I think the thing at the end. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the thing he's delivering are lyrics, right?
He's delivering a song. You seem to be making this way more hard for yourself. He's delivering a letter. He's delivering a song.
He's delivering a song. Okay, it's not a spoiler. To Marta, and we often talk about this. We spoke about it with The Greatest Showman as well. You want that song to be great and sound good, and I think they managed to pull that off, because when Marta Sandoval, Gloria Estefan starts singing that song, you're like, okay, this is a beautiful love song.
I even liked it when they sang it earlier in the movie.
Yeah. My only thing is, you get fucking Gloria Estefan and she sings one song. It's Gloria fucking Estefan.
And there's no references to Dr. Beat at all.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, for me, that last bit, because Marta Sandoval is performing her last show ever, right? I wish they had spent a little more time at that show, I think, as opposed to what they did was they go out into the car with Gabby and Gabby's mom, and then they find Vivo, and then they go back to the concert. I wish they had stayed in the concert a little bit more. I think because we've been, they've mentioned Marta Sandoval as this great singer. I would have wished we would have seen some of that. I think the focus felt too much on Gabby's journey, Gabby's father, Gabby's mother. I'm just like, yeah, great. But you've got Gloria Estefan.
She needed a sad longing song in her dressing room.
Sure.
The 3 minute long dressing. The thing though, to come back to what you said earlier about Gabby becoming the lead, I think the thing that kind of set me off a little bit was the fact that they have that moment of them in the suitcase opening, closing. He's terrified of her. She's terrified of him. Sorry. Also, we should point out, I was just baffled for the first 10 minutes to figure out, wait, he's talking. Can people understand? He's singing with Ernez. Can people understand him or not?
I will say that was great. The way they treated that, I think is beautiful.
the way it's eventually revealed is like, okay, and like he only sings with people he's in tune with. That's great. They go through the trouble of doing we're meeting each other, we're opposites, we don't like each other at all, we're on a mission together, the journey is accepted, they go on the journey together, they start to bond together. And then they didn't even wait till the sequel to separate the heroes. They separated them in the middle of this, and while having, I don't know, it felt kind of weird that the villains of the piece were three. I mean, tiny white girls are terrifying, but having three like ecological Girl Scouts or brownies be the villains is kind of odd. And also,
eco-terrorists.
Yeah, one of which, like, you know, maybe this is, they pushed it out because it's like there's a point that she wants to see Vivo's vaccination cert.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I'm with her. I totally agree.
but you saw it here first, folks. I mean, this is where the ultra woke become the villains of every piece.
Exactly right, and they win them over in the end. But they're presented basically as mini fascists at a certain point. Which is odd. But when they separate. I didn't need that separation. I really didn't need the spoonbills. The spoonbills added nothing. Dan Korea. I was like, what is Dan? What is this? I mean, it's a cute thing, but it feels like it walked in from another movie.
Yeah.
That song also felt very out of place.
The love song
in this film. And I understand what the purpose was, but in some ways, Vivo already had his mission and his purpose, and he didn't need that reinforced by this song.
I would have liked to see himself and Gabby overcoming the snake. They overcome the snake anyway, but like. Coming together and they're in a raft made of junk in the Everglades, surrounded by everything that can kill you. Especially the Kinkajou will not survive here because I think it's the Hitler of the little girl guides basically saying like he's in the Everglades, everything here will kill him.
Yeah. And you're right. The spoonbill thing really felt random because they set it up as like Vivo is trying to help this spoonbill trying to get the most beautiful spoonbill
of his life,
and then it happens.
Yeah.
And then
because it's like they're doing Cyrano de Bergerac, but then it just turns into oh no, everyone's a goofy fool once you get over that initial awkwardness.
Soft
it's like
lighting.
Once you get over soft lighting and literally putting someone on a pedestal, they're just as goofy as you are, and you might get on well, and that's great.
But it also happens within in 30 seconds. Like they don't drag it out over. They don't go on an adventure and then bump into her later. No, it's right there. Like, how did you spend the last 8 mating seasons not having mated yet because it's been so difficult? I'm just like, I don't understand this. And then,
if you ever see on Twitter, follow Dr. Nerdlove. I don't know, he wrote some articles for Kotaku and IO9 back in the day, and it's a relationship coach, and he posted again something just this very night, and he said, I have to do this again because people say I could never talk to this girl, and women have it so easy, and it's all like, who tells you this shit? Everyone has it difficult, everyone's awkward, everyone's strange, and that message is nice. It just doesn't belong. You could do a whole movie on that.
It's also weird because once they get out, so they've defeated the bad snake. They get on the boat. They drive towards Miami, and then in just like in a blink and you'll miss it moment, this male spoonbill that's helped Vivo through all this just sort of flies off.
Oh yeah, in the corner. It's like when they're in it's just like we'll put it in.
He leaves.
Yeah, because he has a conversation with Vivo, like, oh, so what are you going to do now?
Like,
and
it's
I don't know.
It's the $5 million version of Poochie went back to his home planet, right? Instead of a single animation cell going like this, it's actually in a wide shot. It's in the widest shot because you see all of Miami and the Everglades, and the boat is tiny, and then he's just like, yoink, he's just gone off the corner.
I was just like, that was.
I think that happened in test screenings, and they were like, hey, wait, where did he go? And they're like, oh wait, quick, add this in. He flies off.
It just felt weird, and I think it was just this. The spoonbills brought very little to the story.
They did bring Gary, which was a very funny thing, the frog in their throat joke. Sorry, Gary, love that. That was brilliant, but that could have been anyone.
But it felt it sort of, for me, it sort of lost pace at that moment, right? Suddenly Vivo meets these spoonbills. There's a little 45-second thing with spoonbills. They fly, they land, and it's just like, okay, moving on.
Are we, and I don't believe this to be true, but I wanted your opinions. Are we approaching oversaturation of Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Yes.
He's got another Disney animation coming out as well.
Yep.
The trailer dropped for that about a month ago or 3 weeks ago.
He's directing that one, right?
What's that one called?
I don't know if he's directing it. I know he's done the music for it.
I think that's his. He's got a directorial debut coming out soon.
Oh no, the directorial debut is actually a live action movie for Netflix.
A different thing.
A completely different thing. Yes.
God. I mean, my thing with Lin-Manuel Miranda is that I feel like his songs all sound very similar. They all sound like Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh, he definitely has a style.
Yeah, and I think having not seen In the Heights, I did see some of the discourse around In the Heights, and I didn't. There's probably articles out there, but they were pinpointing beat and melody similarities between In the Heights and Hamilton. And when he does his, I'm going to rap so fast you can't believe I'm going to sing rap so fast you can't believe I'm not breathing thing, I think that's done. I think I'm like, okay, because he does that in this as well from the off, and that's where I started eye rolling.
Yeah.
But
look,
the song
the
one song that's available on Spotify is not that, it's just singing, and it's great.
Which one is that one?
Yeah.
So it's not
Into the Bend.
Yes, the one that lyric. Oh. My heart grew 5 sizes that day.
They released that as a YouTube video.
Yeah,
online.
It's the only song I can find online. Maybe again, just because of the SEO is bad. I was like, oh, just double check the names. Nope. Good luck finding that. It's hard even finding a track listing.
Yeah, I think on YouTube they released 2. So they released the Lin-Manuel Miranda in Lean Into the Bend.
The opening number. Yeah.
No, the offbeat, the drum one with Missy Elliott.
Oh, okay, right.
Those 2 are out. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like when life throws you a curve, you got to lean into the bend. Is that the lyric? Was it?
Yeah.
It's just.
I think something along those lines.
Yeah, and just the music and everything there just worked really, really well.
But I was gonna say, like lyrically, it still is fun. Like I was just looking because I have the subtitles on while watching this, and the lyrics are still tremendous. He's still an incredible writer. So yeah, Encanto is the Disney cartoon that's coming out, and the Netflix film is Tick Tick Boom, which is also
yes.
I think
that's the one, Andrew Garfield one.
Correct. Yeah, Andrew Garfield is produced by Ron Howard and Brian Grazer. It's got Vanessa Hudgens. I think that's coming out later this year. I think maybe September. I'm not sure. So, yeah, I mean, he is the hottest thing in Hollywood, and of course he's got Little Mermaid, which I think just wrapped production.
Yeah,
and he's the composer on that. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's got a lot of stuff coming out. But I have to say, if you are a Lin-Manuel, Alex Lackamore fan, your fingerprints are all over this. So if you enjoyed In the Heights and Hamilton,
better or for worse, I have to say.
Correct. You are going to enjoy the music on this, right? So, and yeah, I mean, on the whole, it was an incredibly fun, pleasant experience, and it's one of those things where I, for one, if someone wanted to watch it, I would sit down and watch it with them because I had a good time. And so if someone was like, oh, I haven't seen Vivo, and I'm like, oh, okay, put it on, you'll have fun. And for me, those 2 hours or however long it was, I had a really good time watching this. And I think the kids will, I think if you have kids, the kids will love it. I think
that's why the Spoonbills are there. There was probably a meeting where it's like, this journey needs something to keep the kids occupied. They're going to start itching in their seats. They're going to want to start going to the bathroom. Boom, cute birds. There we go.
But also Gabby's incredibly relatable on that level because she's one of those few kids on, like when you watch Mitchells and stuff, you find that even some of the kids are written to appeal to adults and written to appeal to grown-ups, right? And Gabby feels like a kid's kid. I think that's very relatable.
And also, doesn't have a problem with being weird on her own. She doesn't want to hang out with the sand dollars.
Exactly.
She wants to be in a room and play with her synths and do some weird stuff, and her mom won't let her.
She marches to the beat of her own drum, motherfucker.
Oh God, when that's stuck in my head again. I just gotten it out. We should say. I mean, are we avoiding saying the actress's name because we don't know?
I was going to say, because I don't know how to pronounce that.
I don't know how to pronounce it, so I don't want to insult her.
Yeah, I think it's Ynairaly Simo. I think it is. But like, yeah, her voice work is great. Her singing is great. Like, it's fantastic.
Her debut.
It's a debut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But check out Vivo. It's streaming on Netflix, and we think you will enjoy this. And Myth Mogul, John DeLorean as well. We've done 2 movies or 2 shows this week that are great counter programming for one another, right?
Yeah, I think because the cocaine storyline in DeLorean that really gets the kids to stay in their seats.
It really gets the kids.
I just wanna jump in quick. And if you're watching Vivo and you like the music, I would say check out some of the Jose de Marcos's Juan de Marcos's stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
don't. I mean, Buena Vista Social Club is the more obvious choice, but I think that album's a little slow for kids. I think it's a little sort of emotional. Look for his Juan de Marcos then set up his own band called the Afro-Cuban All-Stars. That one's a lot faster. That one's a lot sort of more dancier. So look that one up, I think, if you want to get kids into it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
It's a great album. Yeah, Afro-Cuban All-Stars.
I think a lot of Malaysians are aware of Buena Vista Social Club. They came to Malaysia to perform.
I think a couple times.
Jazz
right?
Fest, twice. I think, and it was always sold out. It was packed. Big fans over here of their music. Yeah, I mean, if anything, this movie and what's the Netflix series called? Most Beautiful Thing.
Yes.
If
Although
anything,
they're kind of different music, though.
no, different music, but they will send you down a rabbit hole
Yes,
of trying to find more music like this, right?
Yeah.
So check it out. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your kids think of Vivo as well. You can get in touch on all of our social medias, Goggler MY, also podcast at goggler.my, and our hotline 012-524-5208. You can send us a WhatsApp anytime, day or night.
One last thing. I was trying to find this. All the trailers I found just have Netflix and just go straight into the trailer. Was there a trailer that showed the Columbia logo dancing? Because the moment that showed up and I heard the music, I'm like, this is when my initial problems with the film, I initially wasn't so into the film. I was like, she's going to dance, isn't she? She's going to dance. And she did like that, you know, and I was like, okay. And that kind of put me off, but I was like, there's no way that I just guessed that. That has to be something that was in a trailer, but I can't seem to find any trailers before April.
I don't know if there was.
Trailer.
No, because if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if this went through the process of. Oh, I lost the headphone. I don't know if this went through. Fell out of my ear.
This is how it's done, kids.
Yeah, I don't know if this went through the process of, let's do a cinematic release and then pawn it off to Netflix. I think Netflix got in earlier than that. And so even though it began life as a Sony Pictures production, and actually it began life fucking years ago. Lin-Manuel had this idea like 6 or 8 years ago, and then by the time they actually made it happen. So I don't think there was ever a Sony Pictures / Columbia trailer for this. Or at least I never saw one.
Yeah, so it was just the logo shows up. He pitched it to somebody else and they cancelled it, and then Sony picked it up. I think it was DreamWorks or something like that. I saw
no. Was it DreamWorks or Fox? I thought the merger fucked it up again. The Disney merger did it.
Might have done.
Might have been DreamWorks.
But it seemed to put me. I was just like, this. It seems so obvious. So that when it did it, I was like, oh, it's going to be that kind of movie, and then it wasn't. So that was nice.
Ian, I think it's the case that you've just seen so many movies now that you can kind of predict how these brains work. It's like, movie about Cuban music. There's a lady in the beginning at the opening credits. She's bound to dance.
Yeah, I mean, the other one that comes to mind was Colombia was Zombieland, right? It's like pulls out a gun and starts shooting zombies attacking.
Yeah. That was cool.
I mean, there's an article every couple of years about how they mess with their openings, and I'm always disappointed when the Universal logo doesn't do something weird.
Yeah.
When it's just the normal one, you're like, come on, man.
I think they've done it with Jurassic Park. They've done it with Fast. I think some of the Fast movies.
I think Amblin's done a couple of stuff as well, right?
Yeah, Amblin does it. DreamWorks does it occasionally. I mean, Disney all the time now with their do.
Yeah, but the Disney still as well. There's weird ones where you're thinking I'm looking forward to seeing them do this in the X style, and it doesn't do it just at the normal one. So it's odd.
Yeah, I mean, I like the one in Mulan where the castle is a sort of Chinese inspired one.
Yeah, so that was cool.
It was quite cute. Yeah.
I love the Tron one always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
Well, wait.
Cool.
Wait, Dune is what? Universal?
Dune is Legendary and Warner.
Warner, yeah. So we'll probably just get a slightly sandy WB logo. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Ooh.
Slightly sandy WB logo. Hey, before we wrap, did you hear the interview with Jason Momoa in the New York Times? And he was like, people need to see the 6-hour cut of Denis Villeneuve's movie. Man.
Oh, Christ.
Like,
no, don't start this again. Is this why this discourse was going on? Because people were saying, like, I saw someone commenting about, I wasn't on Twitter much the last few days, it was just saying Every time you hear someone talk about a 6 or 8 hour cut, it's the assembly cut. It's garbage. It's just literally all the footage.
No decisions are made, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, he wants the 6 hour cut because that's got the most Duncan Idaho in it. Because Duncan Idaho,
Because in the book,
spoilers, he ain't around for long, guys.
no, he ain't.
Oh, okay.
He's not
I guess.
around for much in the books. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
unless Villeneuve changed that a bit because he's got Momoa.
Yeah. Paul dies and Momoa's the lead for the second movie.
Whatever, Chalamet, get out of the way.
Yeah, you get Jason Momoa.
This guy knows his way around an axe.
Muad'Dib is dead. What's the name of the second mouse in the moon of Arrakis? I was like, oh, that's Aquaman.
I don't get this.
Where's all the water?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
We ended the stream like 12 minutes ago, guys.
No,
Yeah, we did.
we haven't
We
done
did.
the signal to Slytherin stream, so
So
now's the time to debut your new How We End the Stream, Uma. Away you go.
I don't.
You've already done your outro.
I've already done my outro. I'll just for the podcast. I'll just snip up to that point, or cut and move it around to after this, right? So we can just end the stream
So-
now and tell people, "Hey,
What?
thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to the Goggler Podcast."